So let's take the very big, positive inflation reading. Let's take us to the market street. Nnamdi, Olisa Eloka is with Zcrest Capital. He's FX and FI strategist is joining us from FMDQ Exchange Place in downtown Lagos. Thank you. Nnamdi, good morning. It's good to have you on the program. Okay, great. This is our inflation reading positive, beating some of the forecasts that we had days a few weeks ago about what February headline figures will coming through. How do you read this within the current market week? Okay, I guess we lost the audio. They were trying to get that back. Nnamdi Olisa Eloka, who is the strategist for fixed income and currencies at Zcrest Capital. Last week, we had a very bit of a nice rally at the debt market, and this week hasn't been particularly different, although we started a little bit slow, but again, now the market is moving on very strongly. But the big story for the market is the latest inflation numbers. If you get the headlines, let's just give you that. The headline, CPI inflation 11.31%, printing a bit lower than 11.37% in the month of January. Month on month, that was also better than the month before. And the other indices in terms of the food sub-index, the core sub-index, the rural and urban inflation, a little bit healthier than before. Nnamdi's back with us to continue these on the fixed income side of the market street. Nnamdi, you can hear me? Nnamdi, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You can go on.
Okay, great. So this is our inflation data out this morning showing a very positive reading across the major indicators. Do you think this is something the debt market should look into or should take on board?
Yeah, so the inflation numbers are quite positive, given the slight downtrend by about 6 basis points to 11.31%. But it's not going to have a significant impact on the market because though inflation is trended downwards, but it's still quite sticky. And expectations are that the risks to inflation are still to the upside, especially in H2 2019, when there will be increase in fiscal spending. There's possibility around the implementation of minimum wage tariff, and there are some other issues that could lead to an uptrend in inflation. So we are actually pricing in the forward expectations in the market, and though these numbers look quite positive, they won't have any significant impact on the market.
Yes,
if you look at the core index.
Yes, yes, Nnamdi, you folks are pricing in the forward, giving yourself a bit of a guidance, but we don't throw this in the dustbin.
No, we don't. But the thing is that it's quite sticky now. If you look at the core inflation, yes, it moderated down to 9.8%, but that's been the low. It's not been able to break through that level so far. So we're seeing that inflation is still sticky. And the forward factors we're looking at still posit to us that there is risk to the upside for an uptrend in inflation. So we're not pricing in this to mean bullish bias for us at the moment.
Oh, great one. Thank you. But again, if you look at the rest of the week, give us about a minute of your time. What do you think the big stories for this week? Yesterday, the central bank came in firing on all fours, as it were, at the treasuries market. You saw the mature treasury bills. The central bank took everything off the floor, but gave those treasuries out at a little bit lower stop rate yield.
Yes, so we're seeing the CBN still mopping up maturities. Yesterday, we had about 213 billion treasury bills that matured, and the CBN oversold. They sold about 400 billion treasury bills. And what we still notice is that, noticeably, the long tenor is still absent. So what we have left now is the short and the mid tenors. And because of the oversubscription at the auction, the stop rates were cut further down by about 6 basis points on the 91-day and about 20 basis points on the 182-day. We think that the CBN will continue to intervene in the market via own maturities, and that stop rates will continue to moderate further downwards. At this time last year, we had the rates on the mid tenor, the medium tenor, around 12.15% after the Eurobond refinancing of T-bills. And that shows that there's still room for T-bill rates to moderate further downwards. So the sentiment on the T-bills market is still bullish. But in the bond market, market players are not aggressively buying bonds at the moment. We're seeing just intermittent demand, which has been typically order-driven, but no significant speculative buys in the bond space at the moment. Reason being that market players expect that in H2 2019, once the FG is able to pass the budget and they need to begin to raise funds for capital expenditure and other purposes, there might be increase in supply of the long-term debt papers. So we might see the yields trend slightly upward. So market players are not in a hurry to invest and lock up in bonds at current levels. So whilst the T-bills market is expected to remain bullish, in the bond market, we think that the sentiments will be relatively flat, at least in the near term.
Nnamdi Oliseluka, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. I intend to have one. See you at the other side. Thank you. From Zcrest Capital. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Let's get a bit of equities squeezed in into the remaining minutes of the show. Temple Ashaju, our business correspondent, is bringing up the rear as well. He's what do you call those guys who play the rear on a football match? Temple. Yeah, those guys who play the rear, defenders, isn't it? That's what you call them.
Yeah.
In a football match.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you call them the defenders. Yes, I remember those days.
The defenders, I don't do too much of football, Bosun.
No, I'm not one either. But don't let some guys get upset with us watching the show, knowing that you and I were not so much of a football fan. I love a bit more basketball and handball. Looks a bit much easier. I just don't imagine 22 people on the field kicking round leather. But it's the biggest game in the world. Everybody's love it.
If you do football on custom streets, I'll be more interested in it. It is actually.
Okay, so
with you. But if you do football
let's kick inflation.
On custom streets, I'll be more interested in that.
Now, look, okay, let's kick inflation into your trading floor, Temple. So let's kick some stocks around. Kick it around. What are we playing? Who's playing the lead? Who is playing the laggards this morning? The first hour of our opening call this Friday. Let's have some fun.
Thank you. Sure. No. We're talking the market. So it's between the Bears and the Bulls, actually. We've got them playing two balls on the field right now. One is inflation. The other is Access Bank earnings that just trickled into the market. And it's beginning to rattle the numbers as we have it in early trades right now. As we speak, of course, Access Bank earnings looks a little bit impressive on face value. If you look at the gross earnings, it's 528 billion, over 459 billion for the base year. For the profit before tax, that's 103 billion naira against 78 billion naira for the 2017 year. For the profit after tax, it's 94 billion naira compared to, that's for the current year, and for that compared to the 60.87 billion naira realized. But I think the good news is the fact that there's a dividend of 20 kobo coming in by way of final declaration coming from the board, and that's if you add that up to the 24 kobo proposed earlier by way of interim dividends, that gives you 50 kobo in totality. So we're saying that's basically something that should shape the market a bit today, even though we know that the share price of Access Bank is currently down some 25 kobo. But then again, we are seeing interest in a couple of other banking names. Zenith Bank is doing good right now in the market. We also have 11 PLC in the oil and gas segment of the market, as well as Dangote Cement, all ticking up in share price as we speak in the market. So perhaps the equities market will eventually have a feel of the decline or the fall in inflation that we've seen reported by the National Bureau of Statistics today, Bosun.
Temple Ashaju, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We'll get together on the market street on Monday. Of course, let's wrap up the program. Well, the markets may be looking a little bit good, but of course, we had a very sad and horrific story in Lagos this week. The collapse of that building that hosts what you call an illegal building, hosting a school in which some school children have died. That is one big story. What is wrong with Nigeria's private sector education in Nigeria? We had a bit of a conversation, which we'll bring to you next week. How do we get the private sector education in Nigeria into the main game We discuss all that, including financing and why some private school operators, at least at the basic education level, are cutting corners just to operate those nursery, primary, and secondary schools across Nigeria. That'll be part of your business morning when we come back on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone. But again, we say our compassion stories for those who are affected by the Lagos building collapse.